If we want people to care about Western civilization, we have to help them understand why it's relevant today and why they should care. Because since the 1960s, many colleges have gotten rid of their Western civilization courses as a required course for undergraduate students, and many high school curriculums refer to their courses as world history. And I agree with David Gordon that world history is important for success in our highly globalized world. If you want to have a job outside of the United States or you're traveling, it's important to understand the cultures and the civilizations of the place that you'll be going. But Western civilization must be taught in this broader world history, and it needs to take primary importance because of all that it has contributed to world history. And as Marco Bastian argues, it's the most global civilization we know. The sheer volume and quality of what Western civilization has contributed to the world is unsurpassed in all of human history. From poetry to music, think Beethoven, Mozart, philosophy to architecture, modern science, economics, and possibly most importantly, political philosophies that came out of the Enlightenment and democratic governments which champion freedoms and individual liberty. The trend, especially in academia, but even in popular history, is to attack Western culture as imperialist, colonialist, evil, created by old white men who didn't care about anybody else, and then ignoring everything that Western Civ has contributed to the world. Now, I don't believe it's healthy to ignore the evils perpetrated by Western civilization societies. Historians are obligated to address when the West has failed to live up to its own ideals. I do that in my American history classes. However, again, I agree with David Gordon. Since the world is dominated by the political and economic legacies of Western Civ, we have to understand Western civilization's traditions in order to understand our own government and political philosophies. While other histories might be kind of interesting, they're not going to maybe necessarily be as interesting because they aren't as useful in explaining the world that we live in. If we can't appreciate the preeminence of Western civilization, we'll not be able to understand the modern world that has been built on Western achievements. Excuse me. Most important among these achievements being personal and religious freedoms. The U.S. was unique in that its foundation was on the ideas and ideals of the 19th century Enlightenment rather than on tribal groups or ethnicities. Western civilization is relevant in understanding and appreciating the foundations of the freedoms we take for granted today. When the world was under threat from Hitler and his pals in World War II, Winston Churchill's biggest fear was losing the quote, legacy of the centuries, in referencing European culture and civilization. If he would have voiced that fear today, it would have been highly controversial. And just as the man Winston Churchill has now become highly controversial in the current historical analysis. If fewer people understand the importance of Western civilization as the foundation of much of what we value today in our political and economic systems and culture, then it will be that much easier to give those freedoms and liberties away.